the average attractive individual, right, would actually earn up 20% more than the common person.
Whatever is beautiful is also good. People will suddenly associate you to be more hardworking, more trustworthy.
Hi everybody, welcome to Under the Sun, where we talk about literally everything and anything under the sun. Today we will be discussing a somewhat polarizing topic, which is pretty privilege in Singapore. My name is Roy, your host, and we have a very special guest for today. His name is KX, also known as the Midnight Therapist, your go-to psychotherapist if you do need a listening ear in the wee hours of the night. Welcome, KX.
Hello.
All right, first off, I need to ask, are you a believer of pretty privilege? Because I know I am.
I feel that privilege is prevalent everywhere, not just in Singapore, but for our own personal experience, I think the most in your face kind of privilege is those that exist in the modern dating world right now.
Oh my God.
I think,
Dating apps.
everyone is using dating apps these days, right?
Yes.
So, and dating apps, literally, we are judging people based off their appearance. So, of course, right, if you put in we judge them by appearance first, then we decide whether we are putting some effort to something into their profile, their interests, their hobbies, whether they have any similarities as us. But definitely the swipe left, swipe right, purely appearance based. And then also, definitely people who are prettier, they get more matches, 100 times, 1,000 times more matches than those who are deemed less pretty. And when they go to the bar, they go to the clubs, people offer them drinks, and they'll get all the special treatments lah. So I think it's very prevalent, especially in this real world right now.
I think also for dating apps, right, it's sort of like set up in a way whereby you are basing your preference based on the very first impression, which in this case would be that main profile photo or the profile photos lah, right? And usually then that will be like, how you rate a person's appearance, how you rate a person's physical statistics, for example.
Definitely.
Right? I think for me also, I really do believe that pretty privilege is something that is very prevalent, not only in this world, but also in Singapore. I don't feel like in Singapore it is not as often talked about, but we will dive deeper into that later on in the session. For me, right, because I work in media and I work very closely with like KOLs, for example, I do feel that generally, right, if you do look good, it really gives you a very big sort of like springboard towards the whole industry, towards, even just getting eyeballs, getting views and impressions on your videos. I think looks is really like a very huge determinant. For me, I also experienced the whole pretty privilege, right, since I think primary school. I just remember like last time in primary school, right, there's this guy in my class, okay? I remember I think it's the first week of school lah, and then he will always have like the curry pop hair. Like, like last time people, they always comb like curry pop hair, right? Okay. And then like the teacher will always like sing him, you go like, oh, this guy is like very neat. Then he has a very like nice hairstyle, and then he says it's very cute. And then I don't know, and then he ended up being like the class monitor. I remember that very vividly because I could very like obviously feel the preferential treatment as well from the teachers to the students, right? And looking back, I think that is a form of pretty privilege that actually happens even when you are very, very young and maybe you're oblivious to the fact that this is pretty privilege. Definitely. But it is something that really exists.
As a primary one kid, how does that make you feel when you see that your teacher is being more biased towards another student?
I think like, okay, honestly, I feel like at the beginning part of school, right, I really hated this person. Like, because I felt like he was very special as in like the teacher. Yeah, no, like the student, like the classmate. Because like I felt like he was getting all the special treatment, right? And then he was also he was also like a bit quite like quite studious. So I felt like all the teachers were very into him. Like all the teachers like him, is like their golden child for all the classes. And like I just felt very like like very unbalanced like that. Yeah. Hey, what is this, man? How come got this sort of stuff happening? But fun fact, okay, actually throughout primary school in the end we ended up being like good friends. But for the first 2 years, I was just like, what the hell, man, this person. I think as a primary 1 kid, when you look at things like that, even though you do not know what to coin it as in terms of like, is it pretty privilege, is this whatever, but you just feel a little bit like, hey, how come like he got better treatment than the rest of us, that kind of thing.
So you can feel that preference towards him yourself as a kid, right? Now we are still exploring the world and being in primary school, the new social settings, the first time we are actually making friends and we are starting to learn about ourselves, learn about how to make friends, how to talk to teachers, and to see adults, right? So as a kid, I feel that we give a lot of respect to authorities and adults, right? And to see that the person that we trust, the teacher that we respect, choose someone over us.
Like someone of authority, right? That like being biased.
It makes us judge and criticize. Like, it makes us wonder, like, oh, is there something about myself that is not good enough for this authority figure? Like, am I not a good kid? And this itself can, in severe cases, like, really affect our self-esteem as a kid.
Okay, so for me, right, one of the reasons why I want to bring up this topic is also I do feel that pretty privilege is something that exists everywhere, but it is not as often talked about in Singapore. Okay, like my personal opinion, right, is that people don't really talk about it over here simply because like they are very afraid of maybe people saying that, hey, why you so inferior? You talk about, this type of stuff.
For me, the most prevalent thing is like growing up, but actually I feel that our Asian parents, I don't know, probably just my parents are actually very superficial. Like growing up, they'll compare me with my cousin. It's like, hey, you see this cousin? Oh, the eyes are so big, your eyes so small. And it's like, hey, that's not, you give birth to me, leh. Like,
it's the genes.
Yeah, it's the genes, eh. And then now you're trying to compare. And then my mom, last time when I was young, I got quite a flat nose. Then she'll always pinch my nose and tell me to keep pinching.
Yes, my mom also, eh.
She believed that pinching my nose will make my nose sharper so I can look more like this other cousin. That is like...
Do you think it worked though? Because your nose quite sharp, right?
Maybe
your nose quite sharp now.
Maybe it worked, but I mean, we know it's not true. So growing up in Singapore, I think pretty privilege is something that is very unspoken, right? And it could be even a cultural thing. Like it's ingrained in us through our parents' old time thing.
I do.
They're not very aware of this.
I do think that like maybe in the previous generation, right? There is no term, there is no pretty privilege this term coined. Yeah. So like they don't really have anything to define it. But definitely I think the whole Asian parenting and like them comparing you with others, I think that is more than pretty privilege as well. It's also how they would compare you with your other family counterparts, your relatives, for example. But I do think that it's very funny that Asian parents like to talk about things like this, right? Hey, why your eye like droopy? How come your nose so flat? Go and pinch your nose. But then when you tell them, hey, you want to do plastic surgery, they will be super against it. They will be super against it. They will feel like, hey, just accept how you look like now. Plastic surgery. Then I'll be like, you every day remind me that my nose very flat. How? Like I always tell my parents, I mean right now I'm quite overweight, I'm quite fat lah. And they will constantly remind me that, hey, you need your nose weight, you're quite fat, okay? Like for both health and physical reasons. But then I'll tell them like, hey, you actually have a mirror, I can tell. You don't have to remind me every day. And I feel that also sometimes like getting reminded about all of this all of these like external factors, right? It does really pull your self-esteem down. Whether you are in primary school or even right now as an adult, like you will feel like constantly reminded that maybe on the external part, I am not as good as the others, right? And then like, maybe that's the reason why I'm not getting certain opportunities. And I think also in Singapore, a lot of mainstream media, maybe because personally, maybe they do not want to sound too controversial, or they do not want to make it seem like it's a very appearance thing, that they don't really talk about pretty privilege as much, especially if you watch like traditional media. I don't think they would really have topics on pretty privilege in like CNA discussion.
Definitely. And I think quite interestingly, people who often get benefits, right, the pretty people, right, who get benefits from pretty privileges, I also think that some of them, they are not even aware that they are getting the privileges. And with that being said, if they're not aware, they're not going to talk about it. And that's also a reason why maybe it's not as frequently talked about.
So recently I came across a very interesting article on Sydney, right? They quoted a study from the University of Chicago that, the average attractive individual, right, would actually earn up to 20% more than the common person.
Wow.
What are your thoughts about it?
Actually, I've read something like this before. So actually there has been studies done that shows that people who are more physically attractive, right, they actually get more raises, more promotions, more appraisals, and they are just perceived as more valuable employees in the company. And as surprising as it is, like it's actually more common than you think.
Yeah, I think like in places, from what I remember when I watched certain documentaries, right, in China, like the whole limb lengthening surgery and procedure is actually very common over there. Or like a lot of people are wanting to go for it, because in China apparently, right, even your height plays a very huge difference in terms of like your demand on the job market. And for guys, it's especially important that they have, I think 6 foot and above or something, and then they will actually get a higher chance of being hired. Despite however they look. Okay, so height itself is really, very important. And I also think in South Korea and a lot of Southeast Asian countries, like let's say we're talking about India or like in the Philippines, they are actually very focused on like your skin tone as well. Like I think it also has to do with like historically the whole caste system and class system. Like if you are someone of a fairer skin, you are deemed as more valuable because you are deemed as like maybe the upper class. I mean, I cannot say for sure because that's not our heritage growing up. But I mean, just based on like reports and documentaries that I've watched before, it seems like it is something that is more than just the way you look, but also your skin tone, your height, and it really make a lot of difference in terms of like your hiring opportunities, not only in the entertainment industry, but also just a regular job.
Yeah, and this reminds me a lot of like psychology, something we call the halo effect. Okay, right? To simply put, it's just whatever is beautiful is also good. So
so they will associate together.
Yeah, so as long as you look attractive, appealing, you are deemed more pretty, people will suddenly associate you to be more hardworking, more trustworthy, more charismatic, more kind, more competent. And there's no like logical link, right? Who says someone who's attractive means they have these traits? But people will make a subconscious association. And I think it's very prevalent when it comes to hiring process, when it comes to job opportunities, promotion opportunities, raises as well. Like the effect of you being pretty sort of just gives the impression to other people that, oh, you have all these other good things going on for you as well. And very interesting thing, right? This is quite a self-fulfilling thing, right? So once people who are pretty and who has received privileges, they are going to be treated with these privileges. They're going to get promotions. They're going to be treated with more respect. They're going to be more likable. And naturally, they are going to have more self-esteem and more confidence.
It's like a cycle, right?
Sometimes they actually perform better, not because they are inherently more competent or capable, but because people treat them like they're competent. They have more confidence in themselves. They have more self-esteem, and they actually sometimes do outperform those who without the pretty privilege. And this is a psychological effect that can be a cycle in a good way or a bad way, however you perceive it.
I do think that, when we talk about pretty privilege, right, of course, the associated element is also like your confidence and self-esteem. If you came across like any instances whereby, maybe looking attractive, looking better than the average may not be a advantage.
Okay, there's this very interesting study that I've read before, right? So they actually say that if the hiring manager is of the same sex as or same gender, right, of the candidate, right, and the candidate is perceived as very pretty, they can actually lower their chances of being hired.
So like the hiring manager is like intimidated. Is it?
Yeah, it can be a form of intimidation. It can be a bit of like envy or jealousy, and that itself can actually sabotage your chances. But this is rare instances but it has been proven to be true. Sometimes the candidates, if you are dressed up to be too well put together, too prime, too proper, too beautiful, it can intimidate people who is hiring you. And people may also associate you, like people sometimes, I think what it is about pretty privilege is that sometimes people who understand, right, the topic of pretty privilege, right, people who know about the effect of pretty privilege, sometimes they use it against you. They may think that, hey, you're so pretty, that you get whatever success or achievement that you have attained in life so far is due to your privilege.
It's not hard work. It's just because they discount you better.
They discount your hard work. They discount all the things that you have done to get to where you are today. And they just think, hey, you know what, you're pretty, you get privileges, the world treat you better, and that's why you're here today.
Based on your experience, right, have you encountered people whereby they really have it hard as a pretty person? I don't know, they think life become extremely hard because nobody dares to approach them or something.
Yeah, actually, this is a very good point, right? So, of course, right, being physically attractive can be very, very intimidating, right? And some people with the confidence, they will approach you. But you may also potentially scare off some potential suitors. But this problem aside, right, I think one of the more important problems when it comes to dating and relationship, especially when it comes to love life, I feel that as a therapist, I've seen quite a few clients who are actually very attractive looking, right? And they know that they're very attractive looking as well. But they find it very difficult to have meaningful romantic relationships. And this is quite interesting, right? Because sometimes on social media or something, we will just perceive, oh, pretty people have it easy. They can get into any kind of romantic relationship they want. They're always highly in demand.
They can have anyone they want. Basically,
they can have anyone. Yeah, they're always highly in demand. And with options also means that they can form good and healthy romantic relationships. But actually, a lot of times when they are not careful, they may attract people for the wrong reasons. And sometimes they can form romantic relationships based on superficial reasons. The partner they are dating with or may feel attracted to them on a very physical level, but may not be as interested in them on an emotional level.
So a lot of situationships, is it?
That's also one of the reasons why situationship is so prevalent in the world right now.
But because everyone just sees them for the way they look superficially, for the way they are, like physically, that, like nobody really wants to go into a deeper level with them, a more intimate relationship in a sense. Like people come to them because, of just the way they look, like very superficial topics, very superficial conversations.
Right. The thing about it is that the initial attraction is already slightly perhaps off on a wrong note, right? They are only interested in them initially because of the way they look, right? Instead of perhaps the way they present themselves, perhaps the way they talk, maybe of their interests. All these are things that perhaps they have not shared about their life to make them attractive yet. But just purely based on the looks, I feel attracted to you. I want to get to know you purely because of our looks. And then sometimes when the relationship becomes deeper, when we are a few months into our relationship or situationship, when I start learning about the other side of you, right? The human raw aspect of you, when I start connecting on a more emotional level, sometimes there can be some disconnect. Sometimes we can find it difficult to understand them on a personal level because we are so fixated that I'm with you because you're pretty. I'm not with you because of all these other areas or other qualities of yours that you bring to the table.
Okay, so guys, if you're wondering how come we suddenly have like a random person over here, right? Okay, Matt was actually behind the cameras, but I think both of us feel like he will be a very apt subject to share a little bit more about the receiving end for pretty privilege lah. And I think like he has experienced that probably two of us don't have. So that's why we have Matt over here. Okay, let's welcome Matt. Okay, welcome Matt. Okay, so Matt, I wanted to ask you. Okay, I think for you, your job, and just like in your growing up experience, right? Because like we spoke off camera before, and then he mentioned that he had a transition throughout phase. So how was it like from like a commoner per se to someone that is on the receiving end of pretty privilege?
Okay, for myself, right, I experienced this transition from secondary school to tertiary education.
Okay.
Which was when I got my O-levels result till my tertiary education. And this transitional phase is that moment that I didn't realize that I was slowly picking up on these advantages or the privileges that was given to me. Up till there was a point of time, maybe half a year later, where I realized that how come a lot of things are
going your way.
Yeah, going my way.
Yeah, like suddenly like everybody like so chill with me. Everybody is like giving me whatever I want, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and sad to say, right, in our society now, with a little bit more effort in myself, I realized that there are people who treat you much kinder as compared to someone else. For example, in my workplace, let's say if you commit a very common mistake that maybe 90% of us will have committed when we are still new. Easily, right, I could get on with it by saying a sorry.
Okay.
But sometimes for people who are deemed common, they will maybe get it over and over again throughout the span that they were working with the same colleague.
And we're talking about it just now also, right? The mistakes and new way.
Yeah. So okay, so for context, right? Matt is in the service line. So like definitely I think I understand what you mean. I think also as a customer, sometimes I feel like if the person looks like okay, it sounds very bad to say, but the person looks more attractive, right? Okay, I will feel like okay lah, just move on, that kind of thing, right? For you as a person that have gone through both phases, right? Maybe from the phase where you felt like you were more like average, the common folk, versus to like you right now having a little bit more privilege because of the way you look. how was the transition like in terms of mindset?
Okay, so in the past, right, I used to be slightly overweight,
Okay,
and
like by how much?
okay, currently I'm 60,
Okay, that's
and
very
then
light.
I was around 75 to 78.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah. But this transition in my mindset, right, hasn't been a lot actually.
Okay.
I can totally relate, like how you feel when you grow up, right? That you still feel that you are fat. Because
Yes,
until now, every day when I look into the mirror, right, I still feel that there are flaws that I can pick on myself that I want to improve on. Yeah, and it's a never-ending cycle. Once I hit this maybe certain target, like for example, I used to not know how to put makeup. Right?
Okay.
I experimented. I did my makeup like crap, but that was all the phases that I was trying to figure out how do I overcome this.
Basically, how you
flaws.
improve yourself.
Yeah.
With different methods, lah, right?
It could be a very toxic thing to do to yourself, to keep finding flaws in yourself. But sad to say, because of how people look at us, first impression based on appearance, right? I will always want to look my best when I'm outside. Yeah.
Okay, so I think if we're bringing it all together, basically for you right now also, as you are in a more like cloned up phase, you still sort of like have a similar mentality to back then when you were like, just the average person, and then maybe people are not picking you because of the way you look, etc. Like you still have that feeling at the back of your head, lah, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that is something that people that transition into pretty privilege, they have that a lot of people don't recognize, which is that you will still very much feel like you are that small little person that is invisible, that is always not getting picked or picked for, not picked on, that's always not getting picked for, and then like you are just very unknown to all these like new privileges that you have. Okay, so I think pretty privilege itself, right, is definitely a very, very broad topic, and you can go a lot deeper. But hopefully from today's session, like we really give you guys a thought starter towards like, pretty privilege in Singapore, as well as on the flip side, on the receiving end of pretty privilege. How does it feel like? And the kind of like benefits as well as repercussions that can come from, just looking generally more attractive, right? If you guys have any comments about this topic, feel free to leave it down below, and we will see you in our next episode. Bye, everybody!